not action. Show and tell knitting, take 2. And action. Welcome back. I'm Billie. I am recently returned from Rhinebeck, and before things get stale, I wanted to get right out there and share it all with you. So I'm going to show you as this episode moves along, still photographs of things that I captured and also little snippets of video throughout my day. But in order to kick it off, in case you're not aware of Rhinebeck, in case you're not in the United States, not in New York, and have never heard of it, Rhinebeck is an annual sheep and wool festival of New York State that takes place in a town called Rhinebeck, New York. This was the 3rd year that I went. The first year I went, I had a transportation nightmare. Amtrak was not on schedule. It was very difficult, challenging to get from the train station to the fairgrounds, and even more challenging to get back to the train station at the end of the day. So I was very fortunate this year that a friend of mine and her husband were driving and offered to take me and my husband along with them. It was wonderful having my husband with me because he was able to do a lot of the photography and help me out. We got a very early start because the fairgrounds open at 9, and parking is a little bit of a zoo. They have huge parking lots, but it can be very time-consuming just to enter if you arrive a little on the late side. So we all decided to start out at the crack of dawn. My husband and I woke up at 5, and shortly after 6, we started walking over to the river. It was still dark out, where our friends were going to swing by. They were going to exit the highway for a minute, swing by and pick us up right at the river, and then get right back on the highway. So in the pictures that come, you'll see me standing on the street, feverishly working because my sweater was not yet completed. And there's a beautiful skyline behind me as the sun is just starting to rise. And then as we headed north towards Rhinebeck out of New York City, we passed, of course, the autumn leaves that are changing now. And this year, maybe because we had a long Indian summer, it stayed warm very late. In fact, today it's practically 70 degrees, although it's a little chillier in my apartment, which is why I'm wearing a sweater, albeit a short sleeve sweater. So the leaves this year are particularly beautiful because of the climate conditions, and you'll see some pictures and footage of that. We also were treated to a very unusual phenomenon called the supermoon. The moon was still out in the daylight, and it's large because its cycle is putting it closest to the earth than it usually is. So you'll see that too. We got to the fairgrounds just shortly after they opened, so we had, the possibility of spending the whole day there, which was wonderful, and I want to thank my friends for doing all that driving and getting us there. I forgot to mention that it was still dark in the car, so I have this little light that I purchased a few years ago at Vogue Knitting Live. And there's a link in my show notes of where you too can purchase this. It's a very powerful light. It swivels. You can see it's got, what do they call that? A snake neck? Gooseneck. That's what it is. There's a dim setting, and then there's the higher setting, and Let me shine it on something so you can see how much it illuminates. I mean, it's daylight, and now you're getting the glare off this glossy card. Let's see if I find something else. I don't know if you can tell because it is daylight here, plus I have my ring light on, but you can see that. And I just, sat back and I propped it here, and I was able to get some work done in the car. Still not enough for me to complete the sweater in time to wear it at Rhinebeck, and you'll see the shenanigans that I go through throughout the day. It was chilly in the morning, it got warmer, so I wanted to have something to keep me warm. But then when you go inside the buildings and they're crowded with people, it can tend to be hot. So I wanted to have layers, and it's a real nuisance to cart all the stuff around. I had multiple tote bags, one with snacks and water, one with the sweater that I was hoping to have finished for Rhinebeck, my handbag with phone, credit card, the usual stuff. So I was constantly juggling all these things. It's a good thing that my husband was there separately with the camera. Anyway, this is the booklet that they give you when you enter. This changes every year, the artwork. But the map inside is constant, invaluable. Now, because I've been there a few times, I kind of know the lay of the land, that the letter buildings are down here and the numbered buildings are up here. These are more the area where the animals are kept, so you can see goats and sheep and llamas. And in fact, they do a parade of some of the animals, which I'll show you a little snip of too. But a lot of vendors are in these buildings. And then there's a building that I never went in before, this building, which has food and beverages. So I showed some pictures of those things too, because that was new to me. We were lucky that we ended up parking in this area, this entrance. So it put us right by the first set of buildings, and then we worked our way down. Again, now that I'm familiar with the grounds, it's not a big deal for me to walk from here to here and walk back and go back and forth. When I first got there a couple years ago, it seemed like massive and overwhelming, but now I know it's only like a block, block or two, and in New York I wouldn't even think about that. So it's pretty quick to get around. There are restrooms everywhere. But my favorite building, and the building that I headed to straight away, is this one, 22U and 22D. It's an upper and a lower, upstairs, downstairs building, because my favorite button vendor, who only appears at shows, she doesn't have an internet presence, Dusty's Vintage Buttons, she's there. So I only can find her at Vogue Knitting Live and at Rhinebeck, and I always try and bring with me swatches or a part of what I'm working on that needs buttons. And I was lucky to find these. Oh boy, they would have been gorgeous with this. This didn't happen to need buttons. But for the sweater I was hoping to complete for Rhinebeck, I purchased these. And you'll see later on in the slideshow me holding it up to the sweater. You'll see how wonderful they are. So that was my first acquisition. My very next acquisition was a pair of ergonomic knitting needles that my friend Elaine asked me to pick up for her.
2.75, yes. I said 3.75. Yeah, no, because I use a lot.
I hope she doesn't mind that I'm just going to slip these out to show you. I have shown you my pair that I purchased there a couple years ago, but hers are a larger size. These are size 8 US. And they come in 3 different woods. I chose the maple for her, which is the in-between one. They have like slicker ones and less slick ones, but I thought this might be like more multi-purpose for her. And they do come in different lengths. So that was acquisition number 2. Indian Lake Artisans ergonomic needles. Acquisition number 3 were these tiny scissors. I have very small scissors that fit into my Altoids tin that I keep all of my supplies in, my stitch markers and darning needles and so forth. But those scissors are getting a little bit dull, and they're not the kind of scissor that I think you could really sharpen. They're just getting, I don't know, worn out. So I thought I would try a new type. And what's great about these is they'll fit in my tin, so when I'm traveling through an airport, I can put these, well, they would be stored in there. So the x-ray machine is just going to pick up the metal of the tin. It's not going to know that there's scissors inside there. So that's a key thing, to not run into any TSA security issues. Well, I started to meet a lot of new people because at some point I put my sweater around my neck with the needle and bobbins dangling. Later on in the day, I actually slipped it on, even though one arm wasn't attached yet. It's finished, almost. I still have like another inch to knit on it, but I hadn't attached it. One sleeve was mostly attached. Anyway, I was able to put it on. So no one's paying any attention to me and my sweater because I really haven't been wearing it. So even though it's not finished and even though it's not meant to be worn over another shirt, I'm gonna try and put it on a little bit so that people will show it some love.
Where are we today?
It's easy to get this arm in. There is no armhole yet.
Where are we today, Billie?
Well, we know where we're at. I don't have to tell you. Did you notice how I pursed my lips to get the red lipstick?
You didn't need a mask this time?
No, I didn't use a mask. It feels tight over. Feels tight over another shirt because I didn't measure it to accommodate that. Now I need those buttons that I bought.
Do you want to show them the buttons now?
Let me see if I can find them. Just stop it for a minute. So these are the buttons that are gonna go up here and up the neck. Should I like dangle these off the needle?
Beautiful.
They look good?
Great with your necklace and earring.
I need to see how this looks because if I'm going to meet people on the hill, I don't want to look like a sea urchin.
Looks good. Very nice.
It looked like a hot mess, but it was good enough. People at least were noticing me where they hadn't when I just had it draped around my neck. So I met Colorado knitter. She has a podcast too. You could check her out. And her friends have a line of yarn, and they gave me their card. They're called knitworthyyarns.com. And I just thought it was so sweet that with this little delicate ribbon, they attached 2 stitch markers. They're like 2 little miniature wedding bands. So cute. So you can check them out. I didn't visit a lot of vendors this time because I really wasn't looking specifically for too much. There were two things I was hoping to purchase, which I came up empty, sorry. One of them was Musk ox. I was looking to buy some Kiviot. I've been to this company's booth at least once before, and it's a super luxury yarn. A small ball of pure Kiviot can be upwards of $100. I'm not going to knit a sweater out of that. It would cost almost $1,000 potentially. But they do have a blend. They do have a blend that's got merino and silk along with the Kiviot, and it's quite a bit more affordable. But when I looked at their samples, and I'm going to show them in the slideshow to come, it looked like the patterns that I had picked out as potential patterns to use the yarn with weren't going to be quite special enough. I think this yarn really requires something extremely elegant and extremely fine. So I'm going to continue looking. I have some ideas, but I did at least want to share with you a discount code. You can get free shipping. By the way, even if I came knowing exactly what I wanted, they only had like 1 or 2 balls of each color. So you wouldn't be able to buy a sweater's quantity there anyway. You'd have to go online and order it. And for that reason, they're giving free shipping. So the code to use at checkout if you want to order from them is Rhinebeck 23. And I'll put that on the screen so you'll have the right spelling. And their website I'll also put. Another company that I wanted to tell you about, and I have visited them in the past as well, is Yellow Dog Farm. They have a really cute card. Here's the dog that I guess is the namesake of their company. They make very unusual yarns. First of all, they have different textures. Besides mohair, they also have boucle. And what else? Oh, they have things that are mixtures with ribbons and like other components. But she will dye things like custom order if you specify specific color that you want. And what's really great is you could get your boucle and your mohair in the same colorway, or any of her yarns. So I find that to be really unique, and the colors that she does have are beautiful. You'll see them. I put a lot of pictures together where it's just the yarn or somebody holding a couple of different parts together. There's an orange shawl on the wall. So look out for that. Also, Moran, if you're watching, be on the lookout for that peachy orange shawl, because I thought that might be the kind of yarn that you would want to use in the project you told me you want to make. Moran is one of my current students in New York. So podcasters tend to meet up on this place called The Hill. And I had announced to you in the previous episode that I too would be on The Hill. Well, it was impossible to find anybody on The Hill because Andrea Mowry and her disciples took over almost the entire hill. They had all knit the same sweater as we walked around throughout the day, and you'll see it too. Hundreds of people were wearing the same sweater in all these different colorways. So I have a bunch of pictures of them, which you'll see. So unless I've forgotten something, I think that's all I'm going to say. I ran into a smattering of people who I know and asked for a quick picture with some of them. So be on the lookout for those. They're interspersed. And then towards the end of the day, we left a little early just to beat the traffic out of there. We were able to exit the parking lot without waiting online to get out, and traffic flowed pretty smoothly all the way home. But it was getting dark, and again, my little light came in handy. By the time we got back to Manhattan, it was pitch black. Wasn't so late, but it was already dark out. And you'll see we walked through this apartment building complex that has a beautiful fountain in the center of it, and they're coloring the water pink, so it was particularly unusual to stumble upon that. We're making a shortcut home through this lovely park. It's really not a park. It's called the Oval. It's part of a big apartment complex. But our long day is over, and this is our scenic way home. We'd walk past it in the morning, so early the fountain wasn't on, but at night it was, and it was just like reminiscent of an evening in Paris. It was gorgeous. I continued working on my sweater on the way home, but I'm sad to report I'm still not done. So please subscribe to this channel and be on the lookout for the progress that I will continue to make. I really would like to wrap it up soon so I can get back to some of the whips that have been languishing for a while. I'd like to finish the black sweater, which, by the way, I looked for buttons for and I struck out. And I'd like to finish the red and peach and brown sweater that I started years ago. It's been sitting around for a while. So I think before the end of the year, I want to bite big into those two projects. So if you're new here, definitely subscribe, hit the bell so that you get the notifications, turn the thing on your devices on to allow those notifications to come through to you, because I wouldn't want you to miss the excitement of when this sweater is finished. I hope this gives you a bit of an idea of what Rhinebeck is like. It's an action-packed, fun-filled day. If you haven't been, try and make a point of going next year. It's not too early to start planning. Airbnbs and bed and breakfast places tend to fill up right away. There aren't a lot of hotels in the region. So it wouldn't hurt to start looking into booking accommodations even as early as now. I personally am hoping to be in Paris next October during the Rhinebeck weekend, but if my plans fall through, which there's a chance that they might, because I'm trying to be one of 200 people going to this special event, and I may or may not make the cut. If I'm not in Paris, most likely I will be back at Rhinebeck, so if you miss seeing me this year, I'll catch you next year. If you did happen to see me, please comment below and let me know. Even if you didn't say hello and you didn't know me, now you do. So just stick a comment like, happy to have met you, or you were brave to wear that sweater in the condition that it was in. One person even asked me if my sweater was falling apart. Anyway, it was a glorious day. So thanks again to Cindy and Michael. I'll see you in the not too distant future. Take care, everybody. Bye now.
I'm not getting the shot.
You never know what you might see.
Linen for sewing and embroidery, cross stitch linens, project bags, and then the project that I actually taught here at Rhinebeck yesterday, I have the pattern for.
So we're Mayan Hands. We sell handmade, artisan-made goods. The baskets specifically are made from longleaf pine needles from Montezuma pines, and then the green that you see is native Pajón grass to Guatemala. That's where everything comes from. It's a type of sweetgrass. And any colors that you see beyond that, they use dyes to get that, and they dye the pine needles. They dye raffia, which is what the stitching is done with. Some of them are artisan designs. We do like product design workshops with them, and then some of them are kind of designed by our organization. We're a fair trade nonprofit. We do some programming with the artisans, so that's a great way to get involved with Mayan Hands. And we have a tour coming up in March if you're interested in joining us and meeting some of the artisans we work with.
Cotton weave and
Wool needle felting.
thank you. Wool needle felting, also from Guatemala. Darling.
So this is the Romanesco sweater by Bronte Studios.
And tell us about the knitting experience, because it's so multidimensional.
It's a series of double increases and double decreases. It's a 16 stitch repeat, so once you get that down, it's pretty easy, but it did take quite a while.
And as those little cones start emerging, it must be really fun.
Oh yeah, it's a great knit. I get compliments wherever I go with it.
Well, thanks.
All right, thank you.
And I'm going to give $100 on the llama box. Anybody going to get 50? 50 on the llama box. Anybody get 50? Anybody get 50 out of base? Somebody get 15, 50. Anybody going to get 25? 25. Everybody buy. Somebody buy 25. Everybody buy 20. Everybody buy 5. 25. Everybody buy 10 for the llama box. Anybody get 10? 10. 10. Everybody get 10. 10. Everybody get 10. 10. Everybody get 10. Everybody get 10. 10. 10. Everybody get 10. 10. Everybody get 10. 10. Everybody get 10. Thank you. 20. 100. $100 for them all. Anybody 100 out of base? Anybody 1 month? Everybody get 100. 100 out of base. Anybody 1 month? Everybody get 100 out of base. 75. 75 bucks for them all now. One money. 75, 75, 75, 80. And 75, I'm going to give $80 for them all now. I'm going to give 80, 75, I'm going to give 80. 75, I'm going to give $80. I'm going to get 9 blankets in there.
Hey, I hear you're coming for the Victorian stroll.
December 8th. So it went like this. We're getting ready to leave.
And the yarn was a donation from Cornwall shop. So that all of you have the same yarn. So ready? Ready? And go!
You got this, Dad.
And again, if somebody runs out of yarn, usually the yarn should be enough. But if somebody's really good, really thick and really big stitches, you might need more.
Can you see my hands?
It's a little bit large.
Could have been a tad smaller, but then they wouldn't have had this button.
I think it's a good size.
That's where they're going. Of course, here.